I want to ask you right off the bat about this midnight Supreme Court decision and what this does to the administration's plans to deport these illegal immigrants. This has got to be a blow to the White House, no?
I wouldn't read that much into it. I think what's going on here is basically they're going to put a pause and maybe put some process in place for how to use the Alien Enemies Act. I don't think they're going to declare it improperly used or unconstitutional here. They're just probably going to put some steps in place to say you must do certain things under this to deport people. And they knew if people got deported beforehand, they wouldn't get that process. So my guess is it's going to move along and the administration will still be able to use this. And the good news is it will provide some clarity as to how to use it, when it's appropriate, when it's not. That's my expectation. Obviously, I don't have any inside knowledge, but my expectation is they will be able to continue to use this, and this is just sort of a temporary bump in the road.
The Supreme Court makes a shocking announcement and hinders President Trump's deportation plans. Mainstream liberal media recognizes President Trump as a criminal instead of a literal gang member. Senator Elizabeth Warren painfully tries to talk about tariffs, and Jasmine Crockett finds more ways to embarrass herself on TV. Now, we got all of that and a whole lot more, guys. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the Supreme Court's midnight surprise, shall we?
The Supreme Court's temporary ruling is the latest episode in a battle over immigration and the Trump administration's use of an 18th century wartime law to deport migrants.
This weekend, the U.S. Supreme Court blocked the Trump administration from carrying out deportations of alleged gang members and migrants from a detention center in northern Texas. Lee Gallant, the lead attorney for the ACLU, which sued to stop the deportation, said in a statement, "These men were in imminent danger of spending their lives in a horrific foreign prison without ever having had a chance to go to court." The High Court's decision is part of the latest legal challenge involving the Trump administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act. The authority was used to deport hundreds of migrants, including Kilmar Abrego Garcia, to the notorious Secot prison in El Salvador.
Many within the right have called out the decision from the Supreme Court, especially with the timing of it. It's reported that the decision came out after midnight, and it prevents the Trump administration from deporting illegal immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act. And we all know why this is happening. This is because of the outrage from the left regarding an MS-13 gang member. I know you guys are tired of talking about this guy already. I am too, but he is the sole reason as to why this is such a big deal. Democrats are going out of their way to keep talking about a terrorist, one that was actually visited by a U.S. senator. Now remember, Senator Chris Van Hollen, he swore that more Democrats would go to El Salvador to check out Garcia. But I have a feeling that this might not happen as much as he would like to think. That is because Oversight Chair James Comer has recently announced that he's blocking Democrats from using taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador. Now at this point, Democrats can show their resolve. If you really care about criminals being deported out of the country, then go ahead and use your own money out of your own pocket to get there. Hey, by the way, guys, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below. Now, while there's a lot of commotion regarding the ruling from the Supreme Court, Charlie Kirk, he did make a terrific point over on X. So here's what he wrote. Seeing a lot of pain about last night's Supreme Court ruling on deportations. Just pause and take a breath. It's a temporary injunction applying to one specific set of migrants pending a hearing. The full court has repeatedly upheld the president's power to preserve the border. And he's right. This isn't a blanket that halts all deportations. It's for a specific set of migrants. And we all just have to wait on the appeals court to rule on this first. But here's something that's interesting. Mainstream media wants you to believe that this guy is a saint and that he didn't do anything wrong while he lived here in the United States.
The thing that for me that's the most disturbing, Congressman, about all of this is just the childish behavior of the two men at the center of this. Not Mr. Garcia, but the President of the United States and the President of El Salvador. So you have the El Salvadorian President Bukele tweeting about the Van Hollen visit. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. First off, that was staged. There was no sipping. There was no margaritas. It was all a lie. It was a staged to try to undermine the visit. But it did say something that he allowed the visit to happen. So there was something about that external pressure of voices being raised and actions by, I think, our courts that have been some downward pressure on this. The second is the White House tweet comparing Trump meeting with mother of the daughter killed by undocumented immigrant versus Van Hollen with the note, "We are not the same." This image in the Oval Office with Patty Morin, who's the mother of Rachel Morin, who was brutally murdered by a fugitive from El Salvador in 2023, versus this image with Van Hollen and Garcia. I would note that, yes, they're not the same because the only person who's convicted of a crime in those two pictures is Donald Trump. So
yeah, the felon was at the White House.
The felon was at the White House, not in El Salvador.
This is what Democrats do best, and it's exactly why we can't hate the media enough. They want us to sit back and listen to this BS. To say that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not a criminal is wild. A report from the Department of Homeland Security says otherwise. Back in December 2022, Garcia was stopped by Tennessee Highway Patrol for speeding. The report shows that he was with 8 other individuals in the vehicle with no luggage in sight. So what does that tell you? Well, the officers suspected that this was a human trafficking incident. To add to their suspicion, all 8 individuals cited Garcia's address as their home address. Garcia also didn't properly respond to questions about what happened and why he had so many people in the vehicle with him. You should also know that in 2019, the Prince George's County Police Gang Unit validated Garcia as a member of the MS-13 gang. So for MSDNC to say that the president is worse than this guy is straight up disrespectful, besides being a blatant lie. And you know who else is good at lying? Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
As far as I'm concerned, he's a lot less criminal than the person that's sitting in the White House, because last time I checked, he doesn't have any criminal convictions. I don't even think he has any outstanding cases versus the guy that still had cases pending when he was sworn in on January 20th and also has 34 felony convictions. So listen, I don't want to hear anything from the Republican Party about how they're trying to keep us safe when their fearless leader is actually the biggest criminal thus far that we have seen, because I haven't seen anybody with a rap sheet that looks like the president's.
And hey guys, I keep getting messages from you guys, comments saying, "Hey Ron, I keep missing your videos. I keep missing the breaking news. Can you please make sure I get notified?" So I've taken care of you guys. All you got to do is hit the link in the description down below this video or in the pinned comment and join the breaking news newsletter. That's it, totally free. I swear that we lost a few brain cells every time we had to listen to her. But that's the game that she continues to play here. It doesn't matter what kind of outlandish claim that she makes. Her supporters fall for it hook, line, and center every time. And this is the part of the political game that the Democrats continue to play. The facts don't matter so long as somebody out there believes what they say. Which brings me to Senator Elizabeth Warren. She wants to talk about tariffs and corruption, alleging that the president is using these tariffs for corrupt purposes and that he shouldn't be allowed to manipulate the economy as he pleases.
What evidence are you pointing to that this is a corrupt policy?
Well, he right out in front announces a tariff policy, says there are going to be no exceptions to that policy, and then he says, "I talked to Tim Cook." Oh, really?
Shouldn't he be talking to the companies that it affects?
Well, then he follows it up by saying, and all of a sudden, great deal available for Tim Cook. Tim Cook, who, by the way, put $1 million.
It's a great deal available for Americans who have to buy iPhones.
No, it is a great deal for one company. But how many of the competitors now get hurt? In fact, I'd like to know what else goes on in this deal. Is it that Tim Cook and his interests get protection, but any of his competitors, I don't know, do they get a higher interest rate? What happens to them? The problem we've got here, and the thing is, Donald Trump actually has a history on this, as we point out in the letter.
Not sure where the evidence was in Senator Warren's answer here, which shows us that they don't even know what they're talking about. The same could be said for CNN because they keep inviting guests who are clueless about what's happening. Guests that all seem to be working against the United States. Because listen to how Jamel Hill tries to advocate for China when it comes to these trade wars.
Those would help if you didn't wildly put tariffs in place that don't make any sense. That would probably help more.
Where do you think the tariffs don't make sense?
China. I mean, the big one.
China.
China?
Does not make any sense.
Doesn't it make sense to have tariffs on China?
No, it doesn't make sense to have this level of tariffs on China.
On
That entire
China?
What level do you prefer?
Well, not 145%.
Give me a number.
Again, not 145%.
How about 144?
Again, how about 275?
You seem to be very definitive that this number is wrong.
No,
I just wondered
because the economy is telling me that it's wrong.
Scott, do you think that the U.S. economy can sustain long term on China?
On China?
Yeah.
I want whatever it takes to isolate them and to decouple us from them.
What's the number, Scott?
I hope it's this one, but
what's
if it has
the
to be...
number? You think it's 145%? You think that the economy will be good and fine in the long haul on at 100%?
I think the economy will be good and fine, and our national and economic security will be better when we decouple from China and we're not dependent upon our biggest enemy in the world for all of this stuff.
Did you guys see how they tried to gang up on Scott Jennings and failed? The fact is that we can't be reliant on China. We just can't. And the sooner these liberals realize that, the better. Now, I hope you have some time because we need to talk about Social Security. Now, I'm going to link you guys to a recent live stream that I did where I covered a massive update on these Social Security benefits. Make sure you guys check that out because it is possible that you get more or less on your Social Security payments very soon. As always, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you next time.